Bem-vindo ao Bloom Podcast. A cada episódio, Rodolfo Oliveira e um convidado partilharão histórias do mundo da gestão, do marketing, da comunicação e até inovação. Let's talk!
Este é o Bloom Podcast e eu sou o Rodolfo Oliveira. Estamos hoje aqui com Sheree Mitchell, que é presidente e fundadora da Immersa Global, uma empresa norte-americana que opera no nosso país no mercado de turismo. E este podcast será em inglês. So now, for a quick introduction. Sheree, you are a founder of Immersa Global. It's a US company that operates exclusive travel programs, small meetings, and in-destination support for customers in Portugal. I know you are a citizen of the world, having traveled extensively, having a degree as Masters of Arts in Spanish language and literature from Florida University and executive education from Harvard School on Sustainable Tourism. Immersa Global currently is already 7 years old, and since last year, you lead the Portuguese chapter of the American Society of Travel Advisors. So thank you so much, Sheree. I'm glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite.
You're more than welcome. So as a quick icebreaker, let me start probably with the easy question that comes naturally for most of our viewers, and which is, what has drawn you to Portugal from all the places you have seen and visited? What was the trigger that actually made you choose Portugal?
That's a great question that I get asked a lot, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Portugal is a great country. And I think sometimes that the locals here, they know it's a great country, but they don't realize just how amazing it is. So when I promote Portugal internationally, and when I tell people what my own personal journey was to discovering Portugal and moving to Portugal, there are 5 key elements that I usually mention. The most important one is safety and peaceful country, right? So Portugal on a regular basis ranks in the top 5 most peaceful countries in the world. And that alone is a decision maker for many people to move here when they're coming from other places around the world that don't have that particular quality. Another thing is the amazing fresh food and wine that is much less expensive than what we pay back in the US and other, large first world countries. That's a huge advantage. The third one is the proximity to the US. So my company is operating in Portugal, but we are an American company. All of our clients are from the United States. The majority of my speaking engagements are in the US. And so I'm back and forth between the 2 countries on a regular basis. And I'm on Zoom calls and phone calls all the time with clients. It's only a 5-hour difference between New York and Lisbon. So it's quite manageable in that regard. It's so well positioned. So you're close to the US. It's also obviously close to other European capitals, and it's also close to Africa. So there you have this triangle of opportunities and potential that I think is really important to mention. And the fourth one is the high level of English that's spoken here. Now, that's something that I hate to depend on, and I would rather practice my Portuguese. I do speak very basic Portuguese, but almost every... Almost every person you meet, they're willing to help you in English or in Spanish or in French or whatever second or third language they have. And that is truly a gift. The Portuguese people they have this linguistic flexibility that you don't find very often. So that's a huge advantage for someone who's considering living here, that they'll be able to communicate. And the fifth one is the diversity. So I love being in places where there are people from different cultures, different religions, different ethnic groups. And, if you're walking down downtown Lisbon, it's so diverse. It really does feel like a melting pot. So there are plenty of other things too, but those are the top 5.
Right. That's great to hear from. We not always we have that perspective. It's great to hear it from. So I gather that those would be for you the top attributes we'd have as a country in terms of our reputation for people to come over and visit. So I would go and ask you for
there's actually one more thing. Sorry to cut you off. I would like to add specifically with tourists. One of the top selling points that we give, or unique selling proposition that we speak of, is the size of Portugal. It's such a tiny country, right? Especially compared to our country or our state, my state of Florida, our country, the United States, which is humongous. So when you think of Portugal being half the size of my home state and being able to travel from the Algarve, all the way up to northern Portugal in like 6 hours, that for us is a huge benefit, because you get to cover a lot of distance in a short amount of time, right? So if you're here for a week and a half, you can literally see the entire country. And the diversity that you find. So now we're talking about from one region to the next. The Algarve is very different from Central Portugal. Central Portugal is very different from the Alentejo. The Alentejo is very different from Trás-os-Montes, and so on. So I don't know where else in the world you would find all of these factors in one small country. And we're not even talking about the islands. If you add, os Açores in Madeira, then you have yet more diverse options that are very easy to access from Lisbon and Porto.
Yeah, true. We, as you mentioned, we seldom have that perspective because we are so used to it being that way. But I totally get you on that. And one thing that's probably also very trending as a theme for people in Portugal is that we were in the beginning considered like a less known destination. We were the hidden gem. We were a lot of things, the treasure in the Western coast, wherever. But how can we, and that's of course changes as you get more relevance. How can we still keep the authenticity and stay relevant to customers which are as demanding as yours and other potential customers who want to visit the country?
Yeah, that's also a really good question, because that implies how can you continue to offer what these particular customers and clients need while at the same time maintaining your authenticity. And the authenticity is a part that is extremely important to maintain for reasons that we obviously know. It's part of the culture, and so that should always be conserved. But at the same time, it's the authenticity that's attracting the people to Portugal, right? And so you don't want to lose that ever, because that is a unique selling proposition. Portugal is very unique. It's very unique compared to Spain, which is a country right next door. And there are some similarities, but then there's a whole world of differences. So I've been thinking about this for some time, because I get asked this question a lot. How do you maintain authenticity in the light of growing and becoming more of a cosmopolitan destination? And I think the main response that I can give at this point with my experience is the Portuguese people have to be the group to safeguard their intangible and tangible heritage, right? So this will be obviously with local government, the support of local government, the support of the state government, to identify what is important and to start preserving that now, because it's really easy for it to get lost. Mm-hmm. Now, with regards to the second part of your question, what I've noticed, and specifically working with the market and the segment within the market that we work, when the people come, when they start to discover your destination, all of the infrastructure for that type of tours will follow in quickly. So as soon as you start seeing a large number of wealthy US or UK or fill in the blank visiting Portugal or any destination, immediately following those tourists will come the high-end hotels and restaurants and the whole infrastructure for them to have services and products that they need. So that's the easier one. The more difficult part of your question is to safeguard the cultural heritage. And that is something that is a concern for me in many cases.
Yeah. And going back to your customers specifically, and overall, the mouth to mouth, the reviews, the digital experience is actually something that people are more and more into and getting used to work with it. So your customers have a set of expectations and ways to look for services that is probably quite different. So what do you see as the drivers for their choices when it comes to destinations in this specific case?
Sure. So the segment that we work with, they're pretty much mouth to mouth. That is how they do life on a regular basis with all different types of services and products. We're talking about very discerning people who have access to almost anything. So they trust the experiences of their family members and of their friends. So if a family member says, yeah, I went to Portugal with this company and it was amazing, it's almost secured that we're going to get the deal. You know, we pretty much have the clients already hooked. The second way that I've noticed that we get a lot of our clients is through the publications when Immersa Global is mentioned in travel magazines in the United States by trustworthy travel journalists. That's also a really big help for us because it's like this level of vetting to make sure that it really is legit before they write their stories, or at least that's what we hope, right? I know journalism has been challenged in that way in some cases, but traditionally that's how it is. And if you're a travel journalist that has a huge following and you've been writing for a really long time, then you have a certain level of credibility. And then probably the third way that we get clients that is a solid channel and is quite unique are through my speaking engagements. So I have the privilege to be able to represent not just Immersa Global, but sometimes even Portugal in conferences and trade shows around the world. And that is almost a sure way to get client interest.
Right. Thank you. And there's maybe looking at a globally at the industry, because you are in a unique position to understand these trends and feel them, is that people have this thing actually doing, always looking for authenticity with Lonely Planet, other ways to search for what is unique, I don't want to go with the crowd, I want to find something that is only for me in a sense. So, and that challenges the traditional industry that was focused on big spaces and big hotels. What's your take on these trends? How do you see that unfolding in the upcoming years?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I have always been consumer focused, and I think that if you have a product or a service that resonates with what the consumer actually wants, then you have a winning combination. I would never want to work in an industry where it's more prescriptive, where we're trying to tell clients what they should buy, versus being descriptive and describing what the consumer behavior dictates, right? So I'm happy to see travelers being more educated about the destination and being much more discerning about the types of activities that they engage in when they go to that destination. It's really important for them to take ownership of the whole process. And so if they're coming to Portugal for a week and they already have an idea of the types of experiences that they want to have, then the next step is for them to find the suppliers who can meet those demands. So I'm really happy to see that that's what we're moving towards. It's been happening for quite some time, where travelers have been much pickier about the types of experiences that they want. I hope that this will help those like traditional travel agencies either rethink their offering or maybe even phase out into something else, because the, you know, wake up at 9 o'clock, go here at 11 o'clock, do this. I think we're beyond that now. We're too much of a connected global society to continue to take that type of approach to experiencing a new country.
No, actually, I'm guilty of that. I've done quite a few of those.
Well, did you enjoy them?
Well, it kind of, you know, you get to see places that you wouldn't otherwise maybe so easily go to, but it's a little bit claustrophobic in a way. You cannot just indulge in doing whatever you like. You like this place, so you want to stay. You can't. You have to go because it's on time to go. So I hate that part. Yeah. But do you see on your particular segment that this is the same kind of trend, or are there something more specific for your customers than for the general public?
Yeah, so all of our programs are tailor-made. So we really get to know the client first. There's a lot of contact hours with the client before we start designing the program. And that way we avoid this issue of kind of having this preset approach to tourism. So our clients tell us what they're interested in, if they are wine people, or if they really enjoy good food, or if they really enjoy art, whatever their interests are is what we build into the program. And so it really does feel like something that was made just for them, because it is. But what I am noticing is that they are asking for more experiences with locals, which is always a good thing, right? Because one of the beautiful aspects of traveling is being able to enrich your own life culturally and learn more about the way other people live. So we are working on ways of being able to bring more locals into our programs.
Right.
Yeah, for everyone, right? Because then this also becomes economic development for some of the regions where we're able to take our clients. And I think that this is the beauty of working in a smaller boutique company like ours. For example, some of the areas in the Alentejo that really don't have a tourism infrastructure yet, we can take our clients to a winery for a day. The clients spend money at the winery because we buy it out. It's exclusively just for us. Then the clients buy wine to take with them. Then they stay for lunch with the winemaker. And so, you think about how much money that's being left in that region and just that one day-long trip. So I want to see more of that.
Yeah, and that's an amazing trend. And of course, it's true, because every time I go somewhere, it resonates with me, because I like that part of knowing what's like to live in a particular space and not just visit the Eiffel Tower and whatever in a particular place. So yes,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah.
So our podcast is pretty much focused on marketing and communications as well within each industry. So I do have a few questions for you on that. And from your experience, and given the ability that now we all Google for something, so and we all find and decide a number of things prior to even going anywhere. So even reaching out and deciding what would be my destination, I go and Google and decide based on that, whatever I find. So what has changed on the approach to the service and counseling that is provided from your perspective?
Yeah, so the type of clients that we work with, they obviously have access to Google and they use it on a daily basis, but usually when it comes to their vacation time, it's time for them to disconnect, where they don't want to worry about any of the logistics. In fact, that's one of the main reasons why they hire a company to take care of every single aspect of their travel experience from arrival to departure, because they don't want to have to do the research. They don't have time. For many of them, time is their greatest asset. And they rather hire a very qualified company to take care of all of these things for them. So we're not seeing a difference with our clients. We're considered a high-touch company. We were before COVID, we still are. So not much change in our day-to-day operations. Our clients reach out to us. The only thing that we need to know is, when do you want to travel to Portugal? How many days do you want to be here? People are obviously very reliant on doing the research themselves, and there are some who enjoy it. They actually want to spend a lot of time researching for their trip to Portugal and putting the pieces together. However, right now, since we're kind of in this transitional period, this post-pandemic transitional period, they will still reach out to a company like an Immersa Global or one of our amazing competitors, because they need to have the assurance that they're going to places that are going to be safe for them and that will meet their needs. Just right now, that we're in this transitional period and people are still a little concerned about, health issues and things like that. But I think on the other side of this, once we get past where we are now, we're going to see much more intelligent travelers, which I think is good for all of us, because we'll be dealing with people who are a little bit more informed and also feel more of a connection to the destination, and we'll protect it better too, right? So that's really important.
Yeah, of course. So basically, it has happened in all the industries, and tourism. I think it's in no way different than the others. How do you see the impact of digital in the industry? What would be the main areas that are being disrupted with the digital channels, with the opportunities that we have going to look for so many? It's coming a little bit on what we were just saying, but how do you see that changing on the industry?
Yeah. So digital has been disrupting the supply chain. So how products and services are delivered and how information flows in the tourism market for a really long time. If we all just think back to the digital revolution, if you will, that basically connected airlines directly with consumers. And so you no longer had to go through a travel agency to buy your ticket. You could buy your ticket online directly from the airline. That wiped out a whole host of travel agencies. The whole business model crumbled overnight once that took off. So that was over 20 years ago. But ever since then, we've been seeing much more direct to consumer, right? And obviously, the digitalization is helping to accelerate that even more. We're going to see it in all aspects. And in one way, it obviously helps because then it facilitates the process. You are able to eliminate a lot of the efficiencies that are just a part of dealing with humans, right? When people can purchase their tickets to Sintra, or they can purchase their museum tickets online, it just speeds up everything. It makes it easier. It makes it easier for the consumer. You don't have to deal with speaking to anyone. It just makes everything so much easier. But I think that will always be for a certain type of client. I think we're always going to have clients who rather not think about the logistics of anything. And that is the niche market where companies like mine are able to still survive, because we have people who, I can go online, I can buy these tickets, but I don't want to. I don't have time to do that. So it's amazing. We're able to use more digitalization in our operations, right? So when the palaces in Sintra are now selling their tickets online, they're selling their tickets online to their B2B partners as well. And it makes it so much easier for all of us.
And in a way, you've become the trusted advisor of your customers. So I look for you to let me know what would be the best, instead of just looking and trying to find you'd become my advisor. So it makes all the sense.
Right. For people who need that type of support, and there will always be those who do, and then of course there will be those who are a little bit more adventurous and they don't necessarily need it, or they want to discover it on their own.
It's got to do a little bit also with gauge groups, most likely, right?
Yes. Well, you know what? I initially thought that too. However, we work with clients between 30 to 75 years old. That's a huge, we're talking about 3 different generations there, right? That's a huge gap. And so when we started to look at what are these similarities or what are the common factors amongst these different consumers, none of them have the time. Going back to that main issue, they don't have the time to do it, but they want someone to do it for them. We're the only American-owned and operated boutique travel company that offers this service for Portugal, right? So that's a unique selling proposition in itself.
Well, it's been a lovely conversation. So I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
Which is pretty much put yourself in the shoes of someone who is trying to see if this would be the area that they would like to work with, and they are basically from the communications and marketing area. So what would be your key advice for someone on this position? We always have these questions, kind of a little tricky, but I'm sure you'll do fine with it.
In destination management, or being able to market a destination, or tell me exactly what the end results would be for this marketeer.
Well, assuming she would like to pursue a career and she needs to find what would be the key attributes she would have to make sure that she would be fit on this particular industry.
To be able to market a destination, correct? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question. I think about that a lot too, because the way your clients will find you is through the way the destination is being marketed, right? And there are some destinations who've done a really good job for a really long time, and there are others who are it's a work in progress. My best advice would be, first of all, get as much experience as possible in the industry, in a specific area of the industry that you're considering before you make the commitment. And with destination marketing, you have to know your destination so well. You have to know it like the back of your hand. And not just that, you also need to know how your main source markets that you're targeting, how they perceive your destination. And if you're dealing with huge source markets such as Brazil or the UK or the US or China, then you need to go through segmentation. These are all things that marketeers understand very well. So it's being able to see your destination from the perspective of the locals and being able to market it well. And then also knowing from the other perspective how your potential clients are going to perceive your destination. And just finding the attributes of that destination that resonate with the target clients of the target segment that you're trying to reach. I think it's really fun because you're having to work with cultural competences, right? So if you're Portuguese, you have a good idea how the Portuguese see your destination, right? That's an easy one. But now, if you are Portuguese and you're trying to work with a completely different culture to market your country in that country so that you can get travelers to come over, that's where it gets really interesting and colorful.
Well, thanks a lot, Sheree. It's been a wonderful conversation, and thanks a lot for being with us today.
Okay? Absolutely. Thank you.